Imagine this: a woman running through the streets of ancient Baghdad, carrying fire in one hand and water in the other. People stop and stare. "What are you doing?" they ask, and she replies, "I'm going to burn paradise and douse hellfire, so that people will finally stop worshiping God out of greed and fear, and start worshiping Him out of love." Her name was Rabia al-Basri, and 1,300 years ago, this former slave girl changed Sufism forever. This is her story. Rabia was born around 717 CE in Basra, Iraq, the fourth daughter of a desperately poor family. In fact, her name, Rabia, literally means fourth. When she was still young, famine struck Basra. Her parents died, her sisters scattered, and Rabia was sold into slavery. She became the property of a cruel master who worked her to exhaustion. Every day from dawn until night she served, but every night, when everyone slept, Rabia would pray for hours in complete devotion. One night her master woke up and heard a voice coming from her room. He crept close and witnessed something that changed everything. Rabia was prostrating in prayer, and suspended above her head, with no chain, no candle, was a glowing light, a divine light that illuminated the entire room. Her master stood frozen, terrified, awestruck. In that moment he realized he didn't own a slave. He was holding captive a saint. The next morning he called Rabia and said, "I free you. Forgive me. You are no slave. You are blessed by God." Rabia walked out of that house and into the desert, into solitude, into complete devotion. She owned nothing but a broken jug, a prayer mat, and a brick for a pillow. But she had found what she'd been searching for her entire life: freedom to love God with her whole heart. Rabia didn't just love God. She loved God in a way no one had articulated before. At that time, most people worshiped God out of two motivations: fear of hell or hope for paradise. They prayed to avoid punishment. They fasted to earn reward. It was transactional, self-interested, and Rabia said, "This is not love. This is bargaining." She taught something radical: pure, selfless love that seeks nothing in return, not heaven, not escape from hell, not blessings or miracles, just God, for God's sake alone. This is why she ran through the streets with fire and water. She wanted to burn paradise and extinguish hell, so that all the selfish motivations would be removed, and people would finally see the truth. God deserves to be loved simply because He is. Rabia wrote these words: "O my Lord, if I worship you from fear of hell, burn me in hell. And if I worship you from hope of paradise, exclude me from paradise. But if I worship you for your own sake, then do not withhold from me your eternal beauty." This was unheard of. A woman, a former slave, challenging the greatest male scholars of her time, saying, "Your worship is incomplete. Your love is conditional, and God deserves better." And the scholars, they listened, because they recognized the truth when they heard it. Rabia lived alone, in poverty, in complete simplicity. Many men asked her to marry them, including al-Basri, one of the most respected scholars of Islam, but she refused them all. Not because she was cold, not because she hated the world, but because she had already given her heart away to God completely. She said, "My peace is in solitude, but my beloved is always with me. Whenever I witness his beauty, he is my prayer niche. I have made him the companion of my heart. One day, her students found her in her room, in complete darkness. One of them said, "Rabia, why don't you light a candle?" And she lifted her thumb. Her thumb began to glow like a lantern, illuminating the entire room. They sat stunned, in awe. She smiled and said, "God is my light. What need do I have for candles?" Another time during spring, someone said to her, "Come outside. Look at the beautiful creation of God." Rabia replied, "You come inside and look at the Creator. Contemplating the Creator keeps me too busy to look at creation." She wasn't rejecting beauty. She was saying, why settle for the reflection when you can gaze at the source? One day, 3 famous Sufi masters came to visit Rabia when she was sick. Rabia al-Basri said, "The one who is not patient with Allah's trials is not truthful." Rabia said, "This stinks of ego." Another said, "The one who is not grateful for Allah's trials is not truthful." Rabia said, "We need something better." The third said, "The one who does not take delight in Allah's trials is not truthful." And finally, Rabia smiled and said, "The one who does not forget the trial in contemplating the one who sent it, that is true." She was teaching them, stop focusing on your own reaction. Stop measuring your own spirituality. Disappear into God. Lose yourself completely in the Beloved. That's real love. So what does this 1,300-year-old story mean for you? Most of us approach God or life or relationships transactionally. If I'm good, I'll get this. If I pray, I'll avoid that. Rabia is asking, can you love without seeking reward? Can you serve without expecting return? Can you give just to give? That's the highest form of love, not because it gets you something, but because love itself is the reward. In Rabia's time, women were rarely acknowledged as spiritual teachers, but she shattered that barrier. The greatest male scholars of Islam sat at her feet and learned from her. Why? Because truth has no gender. Spiritual depth has no gender. The Sufis said it perfectly. In God's unity, there is no room for gender, status, or ego. Rabia proved that a woman, a former slave, no less, could reach the highest spiritual stations, and her legacy lives on. She paved the way for every woman who seeks God directly, without intermediaries, without limitation. Rabia owned almost nothing. A broken jug, a mat, a brick, but she was free, free from attachment, free from the burden of things, free to love without distraction. We live in a world drowning in possessions. Rabia whispers, how much do you really need to be close to God? Rabia of Basri died in 801 CE in Jerusalem, but her teaching lives forever. She showed the world that love is not a transaction, that women are not spiritually lesser, that the path to God requires nothing except a willing heart. Her final prayer was this: O my Lord, whatever share of this world you have allotted to me, give it to your enemies, and whatever share of the next world you have allotted to me, give it to your friends. You are enough for me. God was enough. If this story moved you, share it. Subscribe to The Spoken Soul for more wisdom from the Sufi masters, including the women whose voices deserve to be heard. And remember Rabia's question, are you worshiping out of fear and hope, or are you finally ready to love